Good morning, everyone. I want to give this just a few more seconds to get people in here before we get started. So just hold tight for a second. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. Again, I am Erin Turbot, Public Information Officer with the Department of Workforce Services, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to today's virtual training series, Maximizing Your Talent Pool, the Untapped Benefits of Hiring People with Disabilities. This series was created based on your feedback, and we're excited to bring you topics that matter most to you. Be sure to check out our website at dws.wyo.gov/VTS. We're going to drop that link in the chat for upcoming sessions, registration, and recordings of past events. Today's session is being recorded and will be available on our site within a few days. If you have questions during the presentation, just pop them into chat or into the Q&A feature, and we will get them answered at the end of the hour. Now let's go ahead and dive in. Please welcome today's speaker, Callie Davis. She is the Policy, Training, and Innovation Manager for the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. Callie, welcome.
All right. Thank you, Erin. Like Erin said, my name is Callie Davis. I am the Policy, Training, and Innovation Manager with Vocational Rehabilitation. For those who don't know, vocational rehabilitation is under the umbrella of Workforce Services. We're one of the many super cool programs that Workforce Services offers. And today you're going to learn a little bit more about that. But more so, we're going to focus on just all of the cool perks for business owners for hiring people with disabilities. So before we really dive in, I'm going to give you just a brief rundown on who I am and honestly, why I'm qualified to yap at you guys today about disabilities in general and that intersectionality between disability and employment. So, like I said, I'm the Policy, Training, and Innovation Manager. And you guys are probably asking yourself, what does that mean? Right? That is a whopper of a title. Honestly, it's a title that's too long for my name badge. It's that big. In a nutshell, what I do is I write policy, basically interpreting regulations that translate the rules for not only the people we serve, but also the people that do the job. I do a lot of training as well, not only training for our internal staff, but also training for the general public, just like what you guys are listening to today. And then probably the best part of my job is they pay me to get creative. They pay me to cook up cool ideas to really move the dial forward for employment for folks with disabilities. Hands down, best part of my job. So that's what my title means. I've been in this field for 25 plus years, pretty much my entire working career. I've been everything from a job coach to an independent employment consultant, working for both the business and the person looking for work. I've also been a rehabilitation counselor, a policy writer, and even a trainer. I'm also a small business owner. My husband owns a small business, so when I'm done with my day job here, I get to pull second shift with the small business. And lastly, I'm a Wyomingite. I get it. I understand how some of those weird challenges that pop up from working in a giant state with a small population that brings those really unique challenges. So that's me, and I'm going to bring that experience and real world knowledge to this presentation today. So next slide. So what are you going to learn? This is it. I'm going to throw some really cool statistics at you guys today and hopefully just blow your mind and make you incredibly proud of living and working in Wyoming. It makes me just thrilled to see these stats. So Hopefully you're on the same page as I am when you hear about them. I'm also going to explain how to leverage this untapped talent pool, people with disabilities, and how it not only helps your bottom line with your business, but it also brings some really unexpected perks. And then lastly, we're all kind of snoopy, right? I'm going to show you what some of those neighboring businesses down Main Street are doing. Next slide, please. All right. Remember how I was talking about statistics? Here we go. Buckle up, guys, because this is cool. Wyoming currently has 40,000 people with disabilities employed in the workforce. Now, that number, 40,000 people, without context, probably means nothing, right? So think of it this way. That's between 45 and 51% of our working population, depending on which survey you look at. So for me, I like averages. We're going to call it 50%. So 50% of our working population has experienced a disability. Compare that to the national average of 37%. Clearly, Wyoming's got something going on that's really, really good. And for me, I'm super proud anytime I see national news regarding Wyoming that's positive. Makes me feel pretty good. So, national average of 37% of people working in the workforce who have a disability. And here's Wyoming cranking it out at 50%. Pretty awesome. Now, this picture here is of the American. And I do apologize if that sounds kind of funny coming out of my mouth because I trip up on that name a lot. The American, it's a hotel chain by Wyndham. And this particular picture is of managers and boots on the ground staff at the American by Wyndham in Sheridan. So these employees here in this picture are holding an award. This award is called a Ripple Award, and it's offered up to 4 businesses a year, only 4, by the State Rehab Council. And this Ripple Award is pretty coveted because it only goes to businesses who are doing the good work in regards to celebrating the contributions of folks with disabilities in the workforce and really acknowledging that qualified folks with disabilities are good for business, very good for business. Again, there's a lot of employers, a lot of businesses in Wyoming, and only 4 a year get this award. So next time you're in Sheridan and you got to stay the night, consider this hotel because they're doing some great stuff. Next slide, please. So remember how I said that the national average for people in the workforce with disabilities is about 37%, right about here. Wyoming rocking it out at 50%. Well, there's pockets in Wyoming that are just even smoking that, right? Gillette and Laramie especially, they're as high as 75%. And I'm going to say that again. Wyoming communities such as Gillette and Laramie, employment for people with disabilities is as high as 75%. How awesome is that? So if there's employers from Gillette or Laramie, click that little chat button that shows a response and do fireworks or a kazoo or whatever, because you guys should be super proud of yourselves. That number is astronomical, and it really shows that absolutely thumbs up, right? In Wyoming, we value hard work. As long as the job's getting done, we're happy, right? And Gillette and Laramie, whatever secret you guys have figured out, I'm thrilled to be able to sing that at the top of my lungs. Nationally, we're ranked 10th in the nation for hiring folks with disabilities. In recent years, we've been as high as 2nd in the nation. Now, considering we're lowest population in the nation, that's pretty awesome. COVID did kind of play a part in that. That dropped our numbers a little bit because, some businesses unfortunately had to close during COVID. But we're creeping back up. I think if I'm doing this presentation in the next few years, we're going to see our numbers get closer and closer back up to where we were. But again, ranked 10th in the nation for equality when it comes to employment. We're doing the good work. So pictured here is Mr. Tyler Leonard. He's a cool guy. He's somebody that you want to know. Tyler Leonard is the general manager of Buffalo Wild Wings in Cheyenne. And one of the neat things that Tyler is doing is he takes time out of his day a couple times a year to scoop up a bunch of high school kids with disabilities, and he gives them a tour of his business. And this isn't just, hey, let's walk around, let's talk about what's on the menu. No, we're talking tour, where he shows them the front of the house, the back of the house, all the different jobs, all the responsibilities, everything that goes into running Buffalo Wild Wings. He hits on those soft skills, customer service, the food service portion of it, culinary, food safety, sanitary skills, all of those things. And what he's doing is he's teaching students what it takes to work. Now, some of these students may be super interested in working in food. Some of them couldn't care less, but they know that just about every job out there requires some piece of customer service. So Tyler's doing his part to make sure that these students at least have a taste of what it's like to go to work, and it really informs their futures. So I point this out because, one, I think it's a really cool idea that more businesses could do to help students move into the real world or launch. And two, it's Buffalo Wild Wings, right? So next time you're in Cheyenne, a hunger pang hits, check out Buffalo Wild Wings. Give Tyler a shout out for all the awesome stuff he's doing. So next slide, please. All right. You guys have hung with me when I'm throwing crazy statistics at you, right? And I appreciate that. Hopefully your eyes aren't glazed over. Hopefully you haven't disassociated yet. I do want to mention that if you guys are wanting to see the sources of those statistics, shoot me a quick email. I'm more than happy to send you the studies on that. If you're that kind of person that's really interested in how they came about those studies, again, happy to share them with you. I knew I'd probably lose a few people if I went over all that dry reading material, so I decided to leave it out. But again, I'll send it to you if you want it. But this is really the meat and potatoes of why you're on this call today, right? The business perks of hiring people with disabilities. So we're going to talk about some of those intangibles first. First one being problem solving. We have all probably experienced at one time or another one of those just chronic problems in a business, right? Those things that just keep flaring up. There may not just, we've tried all the solutions, nothing's sticking, or we think we fixed it and just keeps flaring up. Frustrating, right? By hiring people with disabilities, we bring a new perspective in, because folks with disabilities oftentimes have a very unique perspective on work, life, and problems in general. Because life is a little bit different for someone with a chronic disability, and they have to be creative and look outside the box. So the problem solving skill set of someone with a disability, and yes, I am generalizing quite a bit here, is bar none. It's a superpower, right? So by bringing that new perspective in, by hiring someone with a disability, you could just maybe solve that chronic problem. Another perk for hiring someone with a disability is lowered turnover. So those studies out there, those statistics show that by hiring someone with a disability, businesses experience up to a 50% drop in turnover. I'm going to say it again, 50% drop in turnover, right? That's huge. I know for me, the time spent filling in for an open position, the time spent writing up a job posting, posting the job, maybe in more than one place, then taking a look at all of the different applications that come rolling through, checking references, scheduling interviews, having the interviews, then doing background checks if that's part of your business as well. Man, that takes a ton of time. We're looking at hours and hours and hours out of your business day just to fill a position. When hiring someone with a disability, the statistics show 50% drop in turnover. So the Cliff Notes version of that, people with disabilities stick to their job. And that's music to my ears as a business owner. Another thing that really is a perk of hiring someone with a disability is it boosts workplace morale. And this is very much an intangible thing. It's hard to measure. But by bringing someone in with a disability, it brings people together. It increases that workplace culture, that feeling of community, makes people want to be there a bit more. And one of the statistics that I stumbled across and how they measure this is by looking at call-offs. Now, we've all worked that job, I'm assuming anyway. We've had that job where when you walk through the front door, you just feel it, right? You feel just that heaviness where nobody wants to be there. Everybody's just negative. You got the Debbie Downers, the negative Nancys, the crabby Kevins. It's a gross feeling. Most of us have had a job like that at one point in our lives. And what that does is that nasty, gross feeling, it affects customers as well. But by hiring somebody with a disability, morale goes up. People start liking their job a little bit more. And there is up to a 75% drop in call off. That's right, 75% lowered call off when people with disabilities are employed in that business. That's one of the ways they measure morale, and I think it's kind of cool. Another thing to keep in mind in hiring people with disabilities, and this one's super important to me as a small business owner, and probably really important to you guys as well, is higher profitability. At the end of the day, every small business cares about the bottom line. They care about the money that's coming through their door, what their bank account looks like, right? We care about that. 36% increased revenue by hiring people with disabilities. That's it. That's more than a third of an increase just by hiring somebody with a disability. And I spent a lot of time really diving into that, thinking about that statistic and reading some of the ways that number came about. And what I learned with that is it's something that I think Wyoming can truly relate to because we're so small. We have small communities. And I live in Fremont County, so very small towns, very close-knit towns, is people talk, right? So, for example, I have an emotional support gas station, a comfort gas station, right? Every morning, I go to the same gas station. It's my routine. I'm comfortable there. I walk through that gas station door every morning and I hear, "Hey, good morning, Callie." Now, it's not super perky. It's not like overwhelming perky because it is 6:30 in the morning, but it's enough to make me smile. They know me. I feel comfortable there. And that's the only gas station I go to. And my kids go to that gas station. My husband goes to that gas station. I've even told my mom that's the best gas station in town because I feel comfortable there. Now, that concept of being comfortable in a business, feeling welcomed, goes for people with disabilities too. So if you hire somebody with a disability, chances are they're going to talk to their friends. They're going to talk to their family. They're going to talk to their neighbors. And they're going to be like, "Hey, I work at this place. It's awesome. They're a great boss. They are super supportive of me. Their friends, their family, their coworkers, they're going to shop there too." Bounces up that profitability, right? Just like my emotional support gas station. It's a win for businesses. The last thing I want to talk about with some of these business perks on this slide is a growing talent pool. So when you think about putting the good word out that you have an open position, right? You are probably posting an ad with Workforce Services, or maybe you're throwing it on Indeed, those kind of things. So it blasts out there and you sit back and you hope for the best that somebody's applying. Fingers crossed, right? But if you're not considering opening that up to people with disabilities as well, you're missing a quarter of potential job applicants, because 1 in 4 Americans, according to the CDC, have experienced a disability. 25% of Americans. So you probably have a family member, a friend, or maybe even you yourself have experienced a disability. Probably more than one person. So by not tapping into that talent pool, you could very well be overlooking that unicorn. Unicorn meaning that person that can do it all for your business. So by actively looking into hiring people with disabilities, you're tapping into that growing talent pool that could truly fill the need at your business. So this picture here, I do want to touch on this. Anybody who's from Teton County or has driven through Jackson, cruised the square, this is right across from this gigantic t-shirt store in Jackson. This gentleman here is Tim McLaren. Now, Tim has a pretty significant disability. He's employed at Vertical Harvest, which is a hydroponic vegetable garden business that grows vegetables for all the restaurants in Jackson. Side note, they do tours. It's very cool. It's a neat business idea. They're very disability friendly, worth the tour. But anyway, I digress. Tim brings morale. Tim oozes morale. On any warm day in Jackson, when he's not at work, you can see him jiving out at the square. And Tim takes his little boombox and he plays some pretty funky music and he's dancing. And he's got a sign there leaning up against the horns that says honk for the dancing rock star. And Tim has gotten some traction on his social media pages. So Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, that kind of thing. To the point where celebrities have posted their pictures dancing with Tim and a bunch of other folks. He's quite the local celebrity. But I post his picture on this slide because it's proof positive that not only does morale change when somebody walks through the door that has that kind of energy, but also people with disabilities can bring a positive impact in. And hat tip to Jackson Poll News and Guide, because they're the ones that posted that picture. I did not take it. They did. I just want to give them credit. But that is Tim. He's worth looking up. He's kind of a funny dude. But he's all about the good mojo and how he can bring positive vibes to a business. Next slide. Okay. So you guys have listened to me talk about statistics. Hopefully you're still with me. I didn't bore you out too bad. We've also talked about the intangibles of hiring people with disabilities, including problem solving, lowered turnover, boosting morale, increasing that bottom line, and tapping into a talent pool. Well, now we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about that tangible benefit. Now, I do want to premise this by explaining that it is now 2026, and you guys are probably like, yeah, Callie, I know. Even if you're still accidentally writing 2025 on your paperwork, like this girl here does, still, I'm working on it. It is 2026, and sometimes the Department of Labor takes a little bit longer to get with the picture. So I'm saying that because as of today, the Department of Labor have not yet reauthorized for the WOTC tax credit. However, in years past, it took them a little while and then they reauthorized it and then retroed back the tax credits. So the guidance I received from the Department of Labor told me to encourage businesses to continue to fill this form out. So again, premising my explanation of this by saying, even though it's not yet authorized, please fill it out because chances are it will be reauthorized and retroed back. Okay, now that that's out of the way, what is the Work Opportunity Tax Credit, or WOTC? Well, this is a pretty cool tax credit that can help businesses. It ranges anywhere from $2,400 all the way up to $9,600. And what it does is it is a tax credit paid out for the first year of employment for people with disabilities. And generally, it's a credit. It's about 40% of the qualified first year wages for individuals who work 400 or more hours in the first year of employment. So, how does this work, right? Okay. During the hiring paperwork for someone with a disability, the person who is hired would fill out a form and they would check a box saying that they either are working with vocational rehabilitation, again, that's my agency, or they're on Social Security, or a few other qualifiers. They would check that box, they would sign it, then the employer would sign it and send it off. Now, this form would need to be filled out within 28 days of the person being hired. That's processed. Now, this is assuming that the WOTC tax credit is going to be reauthorized. Then the tax break happens at the end of the year. It is a good benefit, and honestly, in my experience, this is one of these little tricks that those heavy hitter businesses use. Heavy hitters meaning Walmart, Best Buy, Safeway, Albertsons, Ford, Chevy, places like that. Now, when you consider these huge, huge businesses, and when they include the WOTC tax credit in their hiring paperwork, like I-9, W4, and the WOTC in their packet, imagine the tax credits they're getting to hire a qualified person with a disability. Money adds up real quick for them. So it's definitely worth doing for business owners. It helps. It doesn't take any extra time out of your day. If you have questions on this, I would really encourage you to channel your Googling skills. All you need to do is type in WOTC. It will take you right to the Department of Labor's website. In fact, you can even minimize this screen right now. Continue to listen to me talk. You can type that in on a second window. It'll pull up a FAQ page. It'll pull up the actual worksheet. All of the information you're going to need is right there on the Department of Labor's website. Super cool, super easy. On top of that, you can also go to your friendly workforce services office. They know their stuff with this as well. You can ask them for help. They'll walk you right through it. So that is WOTC. Next slide. All right. So you've listened to me talk about all these perks. Now you're like, okay, Callie, where do I find this pool of applicants? Where are they hiding? Well, let me tell you, Voc Rehab is the place to be. So the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, again, that's who employs me. This is what they do every day. They make that connection between qualified job seekers and business owners. They help make those connections to make sure it's a good fit, a successful fit. Another option to find people, job seekers with disabilities, is workforce centers, specifically WIOA. That is one of the many programs they run through workforce centers. You can walk through any center. Chances are you're going to find Voc Rehab at the workforce center because they're all bunched up together, but they can absolutely help you as well. Remember when I was talking about Buffalo Wild Wings and Tyler? Well, school districts, that's another oftentimes overlooked location for finding employees with disabilities. School districts, especially high schools, have programs to help students get work experience, students with disabilities. So you can easily call up your local school and talk with their special education department. It's a good trick. And there's a lot of students who are looking for work. Another option is a center for independent living. And when I say center for independent living, I am not talking about nursing homes. This is a common misconception. Nope, this is not a rehab center. Nope, this is not a nursing home or assisted living. Centers for Independent Living, completely different. These are nonprofit agencies whose entire focus is scooting the dial forward for people to become as independent as possible in their homes. Simple as that, right? Centers for Independent Living came about during the civil rights movement in the 70s to help fight discrimination and to increase access. Now, in Wyoming, we have two of them. We have, the Wyoming Independent Living, or WIL, and that covers the eastern side of the state. So we're talking like Casper, Gillette, Rawlins East. Again, that group is called Wyoming Independent Living, or WIL. Now, if you're interested in contacting these guys and you live on the western side of the state, so we're talking like Cody, Shoshone, Riverton, Lander, Rock Springs, Evanston West, that one's WISL, or Wyoming Services for Independent Living. Now, again, this is a nonprofit. They help people with disabilities in a bunch of different ways, but they can also help with employment. You can reach out to local advocacy groups like the State Rehab Council. Remember that Ripple Award and the American in Sheridan getting that award? The State Rehab Council, they're an advocacy group and they can help you. Medicaid waiver programs are another cool option. Medicaid waiver case managers are always looking to help their participants, and that includes employment. Community colleges or the University of Wyoming, they're also there to help. They have students with disabilities, and those students are always looking for work experience. They may be even looking for internships in the field that they're majoring in. Veterans Affairs is an option. And then local agencies as well that serve people with disabilities. Now, I'm from Fremont County, so I'm very familiar with Community Entry Services, or CES. CES is in Fremont, Natrona, and Teton counties. There's BOCES, which is all across the state. There's the ARC in Laramie, great program. Goodwill Industries. I'm sure that most people on this call are at least familiar with Goodwill and what they do. And then there's Bighorn Enterprises as well, and they are in Hot Springs, Washakie, and Bighorn counties. But honestly, other than vocational rehabilitation, and again, I mentioned that because I'm super biased and that's where I work and that's what they do, is people like you and me. So if you have an open position with your business and you're interested in the possibility of hiring somebody with a disability, ask around. Talk with your other employees. Say, hey, you know of anybody that'd be a good fit? I am open to hiring somebody with a disability. Mention it. Maybe when you're at the Chamber of Commerce meetings, mention it there. Mention it to your neighbors, your buddy down the street, because you would be surprised how many people have those connections in our small communities across the state that can help you find that qualified person with a disability to fill your position. Because again, 1 in 4 people in America have a disability of some kind. So, next slide, please. All right, let's say I did a great job so far in this presentation, right? You're sold, you're ready, you're ready to rock this out. You're gonna go out and you're gonna actively pursue hiring somebody with a disability. Okay, so you decide to do it. You go out, you talk with your coworkers and you talk with your friends and you identify that you're willing to consider somebody with a disability. You do the interviews, you find somebody, and they are perfect for the job. You go through all the paperwork, you pick the start date, and then you realize, oh no, I don't have time to train them. I don't have the wherewithal to train them. And you start panicking just a little bit. Now, I know as a business owner, sometimes I feel that panic. Like, how am I going to get all of this done? How am I going to give it the time it needs, right? Well, that's where vocational rehabilitation can really come in handy. So in addition to helping connect qualified people with disabilities with business owners who have open positions, We can also help with the actual employment piece. So these are just a few things I have listed out. I'm going to explain it just a little bit more because oftentimes people in the world of employment supports, we talk in acronyms like alphabet soup, as you probably picked up on a little bit. And we talk in lingo that sometimes doesn't make sense. So I'm going to demystify this a bit for you. So job analysis is something that we can do. So job analysis is basically taking the job and boiling it down. So what a job analysis would look like is taking the job description, talking with the people that do the job, talk with the supervisors, and make a step-by-step analysis of what it takes to do the job. Now, if you guys were sitting in front of me right now and I was doing a face-to-face training, we would do a fun activity. Fun until it became frustrating, where I would ask you to write down step by step how to teach someone to tie their shoes. And at first it would seem really easy, right? No brainer, because we do it probably at least 2-3 times a day. But as you start into it, you realize there's a lot of steps. You got to do a little cross thing and make a little loop and tie and tie and tie. Trying to explain that on paper is tricky. We just assume people know how to do it. And the same thing can sometimes happen in a job. We just assume that they know how to do it. But with a job analysis, we can break down a job to step 1, step 2, step 3. And what that does for a business owner is it takes away that, oh, I just assumed you knew how to do that. And it keeps people on track. It avoids things getting forgotten. It avoids skip steps, and it's easier to train. So that's just one thing that we can help with. Another thing is called customized employment. Other people have probably heard it be called job carving. For customized employment, I think the best way to explain that is by giving an example. So the best type of example I can give is think about a mechanic shop, right? Like a mom and pop mechanic shop. And they're busy, they're doing tires, they're changing oil, maybe somebody's transmission blew and they need that fixed, and all of the things that go into a busy mechanic shop. So in that mechanic shop, there's things that sometimes don't get done. Like maybe the back inventory room is a total disaster. Maybe there's oil filters scattered everywhere, and maybe the little chocks that go on the air tank to air up tires are constantly missing. And where in the heck is the 10 millimeter wrench, right? We don't know. So there's always these jobs in a mechanic shop that never get done. What we can do is we can help facilitate someone who may have a disability and is looking for experience in that field. They may not have the skills for that. Maybe they're entry level. They want to go into that field. They want to learn more about it. What we can do is we can take that person with minimal skills and have them work in an entry level position, taking care of some of those tasks in the job at the mechanic shop that never seem to get done. Now, this makes sense, right? Because the person with no real specialized skills in the field of mechanics is learning. They're learning what it takes to work in a mechanic shop. But also, that employer is benefiting because some of those jobs that never seem to get done are now being taken care of. It's a win-win. Somebody's learning and a job's getting taken care of. Because honestly, it doesn't make sense for a business to pay that ASE certified mechanic $32 an hour to straighten up the back inventory room when he could pay an entry level person $15, right? Makes good business sense. So that's what customized employment is. Taking a problem that a business owner is having and helping them to find a solution while also helping the employee. Simple as that. And it's kind of fun to set those up. We can also do job coaching. So job coaching is just like what you would expect, right? Everybody's seen the coaches for your little kid football team or a little kid basketball team. Same concept with employment. Job coaches can come in and learn the job alongside the person with the disability and then step in and help them really get it down. Now, a job coach is expected to come in, help the person get caught up to speed on their job, and then slowly kind of back away. We don't want a job coach hanging out, lurking over somebody's shoulder forever. One, it's irritating having somebody watch you all the time, right? And two, it takes away from independence. But a job coach can come in and help and then back off. So as the person gets more independent, more confident, more competent in their job coach backs off. But the job coach can also be that go-between in really helping the employer and the employee figure things out. Accommodations is another big thing that Voc Rehab can help with once a person with a disability has a job. Now, in my experience, when the word accommodations comes up, sometimes people get nervous, right? It can be scary, not really knowing how much it's going to cost, what it can look like. And our brains go to the worst. Are we going to have to completely remodel our business? That's going to cost thousands. Oh no, I don't know if I can do this. Well, let me tell you, more than half of the accommodations that people request cost nothing. Zero. Big fat zero. And the median cost of the ones that do have a price tag is about $300. So it's not going to break the bank. And that's something that Voc Rehab can actually help with. We can help with that cost. Pretty cool, right? I love doing accommodations. It's like I'm kind of a dork like that, but it's really fun to set up accommodations that help people. And we all love it, right? When we think about accommodations, it can be as simple as a laminated checkoff sheet, right? That was probably one of the most common accommodations that I worked with when I was a job coach. I would do a job analysis. I would break the job down to tasks, write it up, laminate it, and hand somebody a dry erase marker. Just that simple. But what that did is it ensured that each step of the job got done. Simple. Didn't cost a thing other than 5 minutes of my time to use the laminator and a couple Band-Aids because every time I used it, I burned my hand. But anyway, that's besides the point. Another accommodation that was pretty common, especially for folks with maybe a neurological disability, such as like chronic migraines, was overhead light shades. Now, I'm sure all of you have walked into a business or a doctor's clinic. When you walk through the front doors, those fluorescent lights are so bright that you feel like you got an x-ray, right? Awful. In fact, I have one right above my desk right now. Cringe. So with those fluorescent lights, oftentimes people who have a sensitivity to that light, it can trigger migraines, it can trigger all kinds of neurological things. But for under 20 bucks, you can buy these cool shades that clip onto your hanging or your dropped ceiling frame that hold those light fixtures by magnet. Click, click, click. Just like that, and it causes a nice shade. So it can be a nice orange shade, right? Or I have a coworker who has a really cool one that gives this feeling like you're looking up under trees. Super easy accommodation. It sets the mood in an office and it's easy on our eyes and avoids migraines. Easy accommodation. Also, retraining. We can help with that too. So let's go back to that mechanic scenario. So you hired the mechanic helper is showing up for work on time. He's doing great. He's taking names and kicking butt. And he comes to you and he says, "Hey boss, I think I'm ready for the next level. So if you have a tire tech position come open, I'm ready." And you're like, you know what? Yeah, this guy's got what it takes. So you promote him or her into a tire tech position. But there's some extra steps now. So you can bring the job coach back in to help with that retraining if you need to, right? Pretty cool. All right, next slide. All right, laws, rules, and regulation. Remember how I said that in this world of employment support, there's a lot of alphabet soup or acronyms? Well, here we go. Promoting people with disabilities in the workplace is governed by laws, rules, and regulations. Now, I'm going to go through these pretty quick. I don't want to bore you too much, and I'm trying to be conscious of time for everyone in case you have some questions. So here we go. We're going to do the Cliff Note version. WIOA, it's the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. Now, WIOA is just a set of regulations. It is an act that helps people get back to work. So this is programs that help run workforce services, right? It's beneficial. It can offer training, certifications, that kind of stuff to really get people into high quality, high in demand jobs in the community. There's the ADA. This one spooks people a little bit. This is the Americans with Disabilities Act. This one is where those accommodations kind of fall under. The ADA is all about making things accessible. There's a few different acts, such as telecommunications, access to state and federal buildings, transportation, stuff like that. It's a pretty big one, but it's also something that's very important, not just for people with disabilities, but for everybody. For example, I live in Fremont County and I'm a small business owner, which means I'm at the post office mailing our product out a lot. And at this post office, there are these awful steps. Not even kidding. These steps are terrible. And when I know I have to go to the post office, or if I have a lot of boxes to mail, and I know I have to take the dolly with me to carry all of these boxes, because I'm not going to take 2 trips to the post office, I'm taking the ramp, right? The ramp, it's right there. It's easy. I can push the dolly right up the ramp. I don't have to fight with these terrible steps. That ramp is there because of the ADA. I use it. I don't have to use it. I don't have a mobility impairment that requires that I use the ramp. I'm able-bodied, but I don't like those steps. I'm using the ramp. Everybody likes accommodations. So that's what the ADA is. Then there's IDEA. If you have a kid in school who has a disability, you're probably familiar with this. IDEA, it evens the playing field for students with disabilities to make sure they have access to equal education. It's as simple as that. And then lastly is the 1973 Rehab Act. This allows for laws and fines and things like that if discrimination happens. So 1973 Rehab Act is an anti-discrimination act. Again, I'm a history dork. If you guys really want to go down a rabbit hole, Google disability in the civil rights movement in the 70s. It is wild. I mean, these guys were wild. I'm not going to get into it again for the sake of time, but I could talk on that for hours. I'm going to plant a seed to get you curious. Black Panthers, sign language, and the longest sit-in in a federal building in U.S. history, done by people in wheelchairs. It's crazy. That's how the Rehab Act of 1973 came about. It's fascinating, but it also governs employment with people with disabilities. I would like to think in Wyoming, we hire people and we retain our employees based on if they can get the job done. It's that simple, right? But these laws also, they make sure that everybody is being treated equally. So next slide, please. Okay, so we talked all about all these laws and regs, and it can be confusing, complex, and sometimes it's downright scary. But vocational rehabilitation makes it their job to know all the ins and outs of these laws and to clear it up for people, make it digestible, understandable. So if you have any questions on how that all works, shoot us an email, give us a call. Again, send us a fax. Our offices still have fax machines. We can help demystify all of that for you and really make it work for you. So in addition to your friendly Voc Rehab office or DVR office, you can also reach out to the Rocky Mountain ADA Center and a few others that are listed on this slide. But I do want to put a plug in real quick. Voc Rehab also offers training on employment and disability topics on demand. So I have done trainings for businesses on disability specific topics, such as like epilepsy. I had an employer call me once who had hired somebody with epilepsy, and they wanted to be able to educate their staff on how to handle it. So I sat down with the employee who had epilepsy. We mapped out how we wanted to do it, and we presented on it to his coworkers. It went super well. Dude's still employed 7 years later. In fact, I just saw him a couple weeks ago when I went to buy new boots where he works. I'm kind of proud of that. I think it's awesome. I also do a lot of trainings. One that's pretty popular is service animals. Just a quick plug, the only animals that are acknowledged by the ADA is dogs and miniature horses. That's right, miniature horses. We're not talking ponies. We're not talking really, really, really small Appaloosas. We're talking miniature horses. If you want to learn more about that, I will be talking on this platform later in the year about ADA and some of the cool stuff about it. So tune in for that one. But service chickens, service cockatoos, service ferrets, and any other kind of crazy service animals, service horny toads, they aren't a thing. Service dogs, service miniature horses. That's it. So if you want to learn more about that, if you want to schedule on demand any kind of disability specific trainings, Voc Rehab can hook you up with that. So next slide. Okay, I'm not going to go over all these resources, but if you want a copy of these slides, all of these resources are a fantastic link to all the information you can possibly imagine. Next slide. So disability integration, how to be intentional about integration. 4 super easy things, right? Ensuring that your workplace is accessible, right? The ramp is not a place to store your extra copy paper. Simple as that. Make it accessible, right? Allowing for all voices to be heard. Asking people their opinions, it's important. Asking employees what they think when you're looking to possibly institute a new policy or remodel or things like that. Make sure it works. And then bringing in disability specific trainings. I do a lot of disability etiquette trainings too. How to be nice to your customers with disabilities. Trust me, that's going to up your overall profitability too. If your business puts out there to customers that you're inclusive of folks with disabilities. Next slide. All right, real quick, success story. This is Makerspace in Riverton. This is David Mollick. He's the director of Makerspace 307. And talking about cool things that Wyoming does, businesses do. David Mollick did what we call a work experience. He took a young man who had an interest in technology and was very artistic, and he taught this one particular person how to run this machinery. And then Voc Rehab was able to connect him with a business that had a need to make name badges. So David used his knowledge, ran a work experience, allowing that person to learn the machines at Makerspace. That person then took that knowledge, started his own small business, and now the business is getting name badges. Makerspace got to show off their equipment, and the person with a disability started his own small business. He's an entrepreneur. How cool is that? Next slide. All right, you guys know how to reach me. My name's Callie.Davis@wyo.gov. You guys have any questions, want to set up a training, anything cool like that, or if you just want to kick around ideas, I am always around. Um, yeah, don't hesitate. We do have a survey. Next slide. We do have a survey that's coming out. So rank me, let me know how I did. And then coming up next, and we did touch on it a little bit this week, from first visit to first day, navigating job seeker services with the Department of Workforce Services Workforce Centers. You're going to learn about all the awesome things that Workforce Services does. And trust me, they have so many cool things. I mean, it's going to be a winner, definitely. So tune in on February 17th for that one. You'll learn a lot. You're not going to regret it. So, Erin, you did say there is a question.
We do have one question, Callie. What would be a good job for someone who cannot lift more than 20 pounds? Can basic employers, say like Walmart, turn away an individual because they cannot lift more than 20 pounds? What should that individual do if that happens to them?
So, accommodations, absolutely. I have worked with many folks who are interested in, let's say, working at Walmart, but they have a lifting restriction. I would say, I do have this medical limitation. However, I am more than capable of doing many of the jobs with accommodations. I would recommend, though, that person get in touch with Voc Rehab so we can advocate for them. Many jobs include like apparel. You're not lifting in apparel. If the person does choose a department that requires lifting more, we can work to get accommodations in place. But honestly, with Walmart, we try to find departments that don't require that kind of heavy lifting. Some of the ones that are heavy lifters is dairy. They do definitely dairy. Meat department, heavy lifting. Weirdly enough, electronics, heavy lifting. But apparel, jewelry, greeter, security, a lot of those kind of things don't require that lifting requirement that's on their initial application. We just sit down with the HR department and we request a formal accommodation. Again, that's where your Voc Rehab counselor can really step in and help get those set up, go through their formal protocols within the store. And that is honestly the linchpin where things fall apart, is not following the store's official protocols to get that accommodation in place. So get the heavy hitters behind you. Absolutely. If you want that accommodation in place, recruit VR. We are right there behind you to make it happen. We'll walk you through the process. And yeah. And if you have any other questions, shoot me an email. I'd be happy to help with that too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Callie. This has been a very insightful session. You've given us not just the why, but the how, from the bottom line to the real human impact of building our workplaces where everyone can contribute and thrive. As Callie said, do please sign up for, do please take the survey that is in the chat and sign up for our next month's virtual training series. We are looking forward to seeing you there. And thank you, Callie, again. Thank you so much. We'll see you in September for that Let's Talk ADA presentation. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.